The mask casters in Sable might be the weirdest NPCs in the game. They sit in their tents all day and night, waiting for someone to turn in 3 badges so they can spit out a mask, like a magic vending machine. These things wear the only mask in the game that separates into 4 pieces, as seen in the cutscene when acquiring a mask. A similar mask in multiple pieces can be found on the massive statue that gives Sable her gliding stone. Another instance of similarity is the face doors seen across the monuments of the map. Once activated, they open horizontally, splitting along the middle. I don't think this is a coincidence. I believe the mask casters are also machines, built by the Ikari after mastering the Perpetual in order to keep their traditions of masks alive. The mask casters can be seen sitting in their tents in the same position, bobbing their heads left and right repeatedly with a consistent rhythm, lifting each of their fingers rapidly and slowly lowering them, and then repeating. Each time they sway their heads and reach the full extension on either side, there's a slight amount of bounce, hauntingly reminiscent of an animatronic. This animation is repeated indefinitely. For this reason, along with the fact that Sable questions whether or not the mask casters are human, I am convinced that these are machines, and the developers of the game want us to know that. Even with 100% certainty that they are machines, we still don't know how the masks are made, where the masks are made, and even when the masks are made. This is where my ideas verge into 2 theories. Mask casters are only seen at the 3 beetle tent stations on the map. The 3 consistencies of each station are a machinist, a beetle innkeeper, and a mask caster. Burnt Oak Station is the home to Alton, the scrapper. The only scrapper, in fact, that we can sell scrap to in the game. My theory is that the machinist of each station handles the upkeeping of the mask caster and the creation of the masks. The innkeeper handles the transportation and receiving of the materials required for each mask, and the lone scrapper Alton is in charge of acquiring those materials. I believe the machine was made to identify 3 of the same badge using some sort of camera or maybe even laser scan, depending on how advanced of technology the ancients had access to. The caster then reaches into a brimming stock of masks, kept full by the machinist, and raises it on a platform where the person acquiring the mask can reach it. All of this would be done inside the mask caster's body and below the platform it rests on. This theory seems pretty solid to me. It ties together all the beetle stations and is a self-sustaining process. The mask caster casts masks onto the next generation of upkeeping machinists, innkeepers, and scrappers, to which the secrets of the stations are revealed once one of the members nears the age they can no longer continue working. There's just one thing that makes me think otherwise, and that's the yellow and red swirlies that appear when the mask casting cutscene plays. The Perpetual is a force present throughout the entire story of Sable. It seems odd that the developers would center a game's lore around this mind-bending mechanic, and then proceed to make the mask casters have nothing to do with it. Here's the theory. The Ikari created the mask casters after mastering the Perpetual in order to keep their traditions alive, and created machines that used the Perpetual to make copies of masks when presented with 3 badges of the same type. Perhaps the Perpetual can sense which badges are presented through some imprint present in each badge. I'll call this essence. The badges are imbued with the essence of the role they present anytime one is given away, i.e. machinist masks have machinist essence. The only way to be able to transfer this essence to a badge is by not only having the respective mask for it, but choosing the mask before the statue that activates your gliding stone. This would make sense because the energy that resides in an active gliding stone could be the same energy that resides within masks, what I called essence. A single exception to this is the entertainer's badge, which can also be imbued with a child's endless curiosity or maybe happiness when they craftily put one together. This would mean the mask caster takes the essence out of each badge presented and somehow uses the Perpetual to turn it into the mask of that type. This would explain why we don't need to give up our badges when acquiring masks. After a mask has been received, the mask holder must choose that mask in order to gain the essence. The essence can then be imbued into badges when giving them to gliders. The mask holder can also create a badge, which can then be imbued with their essence later when given to a glider. I believe there would also be a failsafe in the masks that prevents the essence from being imbued to a badge unless a glider has carried out a favor for the provider. This is why Sable is never just given a badge, but must always work for it. I think this theory could actually make a lot of sense because of how loosely defined the Perpetual is. I really don't know if it could be harnessed to duplicate masks like this, but it's definitely possible. I know this one is kind of confusing and relies heavily on the Perpetual, but I think it could make sense if the Perpetual is explained more later. Burnt Oak Station is named after a tree the people of the current time do not know of. An NPC at the station lets us know that. Because of this, we can assume the station was founded by the ancients, who would know what an oak tree is, and likely founded the station soon after the ships crashed and the radiation subsided. This supports both theories, and I think it is just a fact in the game that the ancients created the Maskcasters. One NPC tells us the Maskcasters supposedly came from the whale, but I can't remember who and I'm unable to find them again. I'm not sure which theory I'd like to believe more, but even if they're both wrong, I think the Maskcasters are very unique and one of the most interesting mysteries in the game. I know the second theory is kind of confusing, and it isn't even close to bulletproof. Maybe the essence that I mentioned throughout the theory is just the perpetual, and it's all the same. I really don't know. The perpetual is confusing, which isn't a bad thing because it means there's a lot of speculating to be done. I hope I can entertain you with my theories, and if you have any thoughts on them, or even any theories of your own, please let me know. And if anyone watched this, thank you.